My name is Rebecca. I'm 34 years old, and I was standing frozen outside my own kitchen door at my Malibu beach house when I heard my mother Patricia say those words that changed everything. Through the cracked door, I could hear her, my sister Madison, and her fiancé Derek planning a 200-guest wedding at my house. My hand trembled as I pressed record on my phone, capturing my mother's next words. Rebecca won't dare say no once we've sent the invitations. Asterisk before I tell you how I turned their scheme into their worst nightmare, let me know where you're watching from today. Hit that like button if you've ever dealt with entitled family members, and subscribe for more stories about standing up to toxic relatives. Trust me, what happens next will show you exactly why some family bonds are meant to be broken. Asterisk. 3 years ago, my grandmother Dorothy passed away peacefully in her sleep. She was 92 and had lived a full life, but her death still hit me hard. I was the only grandchild who visited her every Sunday without fail, bringing her favorite lavender tea and listening to her stories about the old days. While Madison was busy posting selfies from Miami clubs and my cousins were too important with their law firms and medical practices, I sat with Grandma Dorothy, holding her frail hands and learning about our family history. The day of the will reading changed everything. The entire family packed into Mr. Peterson's law office, everyone expecting their share of Dorothy's estate. My parents, Harold and Patricia, were practically counting money in their heads. Madison had already picked out a new Mercedes. My Aunt Linda was discussing European vacation plans with her daughters Jennifer and Ashley. Then Mr. Peterson read the words that sent shockwaves through the room. The beach house in Malibu, valued at $1.5 million, was left entirely to me. Just me. Not the family trust, not divided among grandchildren. Me alone. The silence was deafening. Then Madison exploded. That's impossible. She must have been senile. I'm the one who needs that house. I'm getting married to Derek. But there was more. Grandma Dorothy had included a letter explaining her decision. She wrote that I was the only one who loved her for who she was, not what she had. She mentioned how Madison only called when she needed money, how my parents had tried to convince her to move to a nursing home so they could rent out the beach house, and how my aunt and cousins had openly discussed selling the property the moment she died. My mother immediately went into manipulation mode. Rebecca, sweetheart, you know the right thing to do is put the house in a family trust. We can all share it. That's what Grandma really wanted. I said no. For the first time in my life, I stood up to them and said no. My father's response was ice cold. You're making a mistake, Rebecca. Family shares everything. But if you want to be selfish, don't expect our support anymore. The thing is, I never had their support anyway. I was always the disappointment who chose social work over law school. Madison was the golden child with her marketing degree and fancy corporate job. She got the birthday parties, the graduation celebrations, the constant praise. I got lectures about wasting my potential and embarrassing the family by working with those people at the homeless shelter. For months after the inheritance, they tried everything. Guilt trips about how I was breaking Grandma's heart by dividing the family. Sob stories about Madison needing a proper venue for her wedding. Even suggestions that I was being mentally manipulated by the wrong crowd at work. But I held firm. The house was mine, legally and morally. I moved in, fixed it up, and turned it into my sanctuary. I even let my family visit once a month for Sunday dinners, trying to maintain some relationship despite everything. Those dinners were torture. They'd walk through my house like they owned it, Madison commenting on what she'd change, my mother suggesting renovations, my father calculating property values on his phone. Each visit ended with subtle hints about reconsidering the family trust. I should have seen the warning signs. Little things started happening. I'd come home to find the gate left open. My spare key went missing and mysteriously reappeared. Madison knew details about my house she shouldn't know unless she'd been inside when I wasn't there. but I ignored it all, desperate to believe my family wouldn't betray me. How wrong I was. Standing outside that kitchen door 3 weeks ago, I realized they hadn't given up on taking my house. They'd just gotten sneakier about it. I pressed my ear closer to the door, my phone still recording every word. Madison's voice carried clearly as she excitedly discussed her dream wedding. The ceremony will be on the beach at sunset. June 15th is perfect, only 4 weeks away. I've already put holds on 3 catering companies using Rebecca's name. My blood ran cold. Using my name? That was identity fraud. Derek's smooth voice chimed in. Don't worry about Rebecca refusing. I have a backup plan. My buddy at the county office showed me some interesting loopholes about property documentation. If we can prove established residency and family use, we might have grounds for partial claim. My mother Patricia laughed. Oh, Derek, you're so clever. But it won't come to that. Rebecca has always been weak. Once she sees 200 guests expecting a wedding, she'll cave. She always does. 200 guests? I kept listening, my horror growing with each word. Madison continued outlining her plans. I've invited all the relatives from Dad's side, including the ones who contested Grandma's will. They deserve to see that the house is really a family property, not Rebecca's personal playground. Those relatives who tried to sue me? Who called me a gold digger and accused me of manipulating a dying old woman? Madison invited them to my house? The photographer wants to use the master bedroom balcony for sunset shots, Madison went on. And the bridal suite setup in Rebecca's room will be perfect. We'll need to clear out all her social worker junk though. So depressing. My Aunt Linda's voice suddenly joined in. I hadn't even known she was there. Jennifer and Ashley are handling the decorations. They've already ordered $10,000 worth of flowers and lights. The invoice can go to Rebecca once everything is delivered. She won't dare refuse to pay once it's all here. $10,000? They were planning to stick me with massive bills? What about parking? Derek asked. The beach house only has space for maybe 20 cars. We'll use the neighbors' driveways, Patricia said dismissively. Rebecca is friendly with them. They won't mind once we explain it's a family wedding. My neighbors who barely tolerated my monthly family dinners? They were planning to invade the entire street? Madison's voice turned dreamy. I want to redecorate the living room for the reception. Those old paintings Rebecca bought have to go. We'll need proper lighting installed. Maybe knock out that wall to the den for more space. Knock out a wall? In my house? The insurance will be tricky, Derek mentioned. If anything gets damaged during the wedding, Rebecca's homeowner's policy might not cover it since she didn't authorize the event. Then we'll make sure she authorizes it, Patricia said firmly. I've already told the entire extended family the wedding is happening. Posted it in the family Facebook group. Cousin Martha in New York has already booked her flights. There's no backing out now. My hands shook with rage. They'd announced this to everyone before even asking me? Jennifer's high-pitched voice suddenly spoke up. She must have been there the whole time too. What about Rebecca's work schedule? She has that big fundraiser gala in June. I already handled that, Patricia said proudly. I called her boss pretending to be her and requested the whole week off for a family emergency. Rebecca won't be able to refuse when her job already approved the time. She called my boss, impersonated me? That could destroy my career. Ashley added, Brittany starts her temp job at Rebecca's office on Monday. She'll keep us updated on anything Rebecca might be planning. They planted a spy at my workplace? The best part, Madison giggled, is that Tom is keeping Rebecca distracted. She has no idea he's Derek's cousin. Their whole relationship was our idea, and she fell for it completely. He's been feeding us information about her finances and schedule for months. Tom, my boyfriend of 6 months, the man I'd started trusting, who knew about my family issues, who held me while I cried about their manipulation. He was part of this? Derek laughed. Tom says she's got at least $300,000 in savings plus the house equity. Even if she fights the wedding costs, we can pressure her to help with our new business venture. Family supports family. Right. The prenup situation is still delicate, Madison admitted. I'm not signing anything that limits my access to Derek's future assets. There won't be any future assets if my company doesn't get this image boost, Derek snapped. A spectacular wedding at a Malibu beach house will show investors I'm successful. It's all about perception. So Derek's business was failing. This wedding was his attempt to fake success to save his company. And Madison knew it. Patricia soothed them. Now, let's focus. The immediate goal is the wedding. Once Rebecca sees how beautiful everything is, how happy Madison is, she'll understand we're doing this for family unity. And if she doesn't, her voice turned cold. Well, we know things about Rebecca she wouldn't want public. That incident in college, her therapy records that Madison accessed, her real father's identity. My real father's identity? What were they talking about? And Madison accessed my therapy records? That was beyond illegal. Speaking of which, Linda added, Dr. Morrison has been very helpful. As Madison's therapist now, she's provided interesting insights into Rebecca's psychological profile. Apparently, Rebecca has serious abandonment issues and will do anything to maintain family connections, even toxic ones. Dr. Morrison, my former therapist who I'd stopped seeing 6 months ago because she kept pushing me to reconcile with my family no matter what they did. She was now treating Madison and sharing my private information? The movers are coming Tuesday to start bringing Madison's things to the house, Patricia continued. Little by little, so Rebecca doesn't notice. By the time she realizes Madison has basically moved in, it'll be too late. Possession is 9/10 of the law. Don't forget the vendor meetings, Madison reminded them. I'm meeting the florist at the house tomorrow at 2. Rebecca will be at work. I made copies of her keys last month. The bank called about suspicious inquiries on Rebecca's accounts, Derek mentioned. We need to be more careful. Maybe Tom can get her passwords instead. They were trying to access my bank accounts? This wasn't just about a wedding anymore. This was a coordinated attack on my entire life. I'd heard enough. Taking a deep breath, I walked into the kitchen, my phone still recording in my pocket. 6 faces turned to me in shock. Madison was sitting at my kitchen table with Derek, my parents flanking them, and Aunt Linda lounging by the window. They all froze like kids caught stealing cookies. Rebecca. My mother recovered first, her face morphing into a bright smile. We were just having a little family chat, nothing important. Really? I kept my voice calm despite my racing heart. Because it sounded like you were planning a wedding at my house without asking me. Madison immediately burst into tears. It was fascinating how quickly she could cry on command. Why do you always assume the worst about me? We were just dreaming, talking about possibilities. God, Rebecca, you're so paranoid. Paranoid? I pulled out my phone. I have the whole conversation recorded. The June 15th date, the 200 guests, the $10,000 flower order in my name. Derek stood up, his 6-foot frame meant to be intimidating. Recording people without consent is illegal, Rebecca. You could get in serious trouble for that. Actually, Derek, California is a 2-party consent state, but this is my house. I can record whatever I want in my own home. Besides, planning fraud is also illegal. My father entered the room at that moment, probably summoned by text. He took one look at the scene and immediately sided with Madison without even asking what happened. Rebecca, stop bullying your sister. She's just excited about her wedding. A wedding she's planning at my house without asking me. It's a family house, Patricia interjected. Your grandmother would be rolling in her grave seeing you deny your only sister her dream wedding. Grandma left the house to me. Just me. Because she knew exactly what you all would do with it. Madison's tears intensified. You've always hated me. Ever since we were kids, you've been jealous that I was prettier, more popular, more successful. Now you have this house and you lord it over us like you're better than everyone. Madison, you're planning to defraud me, use my property without permission, and stick me with massive bills. This isn't about jealousy. Aunt Linda stepped forward. Rebecca, dear, you're being dramatic. Madison just wants to share her special day with family. Why must you make everything about money and legal rights? What happened to love? Love? You call theft and fraud love? See, this is your problem, my mother said, shaking her head sadly. You see the worst in everyone. Your therapy sessions clearly didn't help with your trust issues. How do you know about my therapy sessions? Madison stopped crying instantly, realizing their mistake. But Patricia covered smoothly. It's obvious, dear. You're so damaged, so unable to form proper family bonds. Speaking of bonds, Derek said with a smirk, Tom mentioned you've been having some issues at work. Stress, perhaps? Maybe you're not thinking clearly. Perhaps you need a break, some time away from big decisions about the house. The threat was clear. They were going to try to paint me as mentally unstable. Get out, I said quietly. All of you, get out of my house. Now. You're kicking out your own mother? Patricia gasped, hand over her heart. Your father? Your pregnant sister? Pregnant? I looked at Madison. You're pregnant? Madison touched her flat stomach tenderly. 8 weeks. Derek and I wanted to announce it at the wedding. Our baby deserves to see their parents marry in a beautiful setting, surrounded by family. But you're denying us even that. I almost believed her, almost felt that familiar guilt creeping in. Then I remembered she'd been drinking wine when I arrived home. You're lying. You were drinking alcohol 30 minutes ago. It was non-alcoholic. Madison protested, but her eyes shifted away. Even if you were pregnant, which you're not, that doesn't give you the right to steal my house for your wedding. You're lying. You were drinking alcohol 30 minutes ago. You did the legal minimum required of parents. And you made it clear every day that Madison was the preferred child. I almost believed her, almost felt that familiar guilt creeping in. Then I remembered she'd been drinking wine when I arrived home. Steal! Harold roared. How dare you accuse your sister of being a thief? After everything we've done for you, raised you, fed you, clothed you, and this is how you repay us. Ashley stepped closer. You know, Rebecca, your neighbors have been talking. They say strange men come and go from your house at odd hours. Would be a shame if someone reported that to the authorities. Might look like you're running some kind of illegal business from your residence. Those are my colleagues from the shelter picking up donation items. By committing fraud in my name? Can you prove that? Ashley smiled coldly, because from the outside, it looked suspicious. And with your history of mental health issues, a concerned family member reporting unusual behavior might trigger a wellness check. Maybe even a competency evaluation. Everyone out, now. Or I call the police. And tell them what? Derek stepped closer. That your family was visiting and discussing a wedding? They'll laugh at you. Meanwhile, we'll tell them about your erratic behavior, your paranoid recordings, your history of therapy, your estrangement from family. Who do you think they'll believe? Madison stood, no longer crying. Her face was cold, calculating. Here's what's going to happen, Rebecca. You're going to agree to the wedding. You're going to smile and play the role of supportive sister. You're going to pay for everything because that's what family does. And afterward, we'll discuss a more permanent arrangement for sharing the house. Or, she paused dramatically. We'll make your life so miserable you'll beg us to take the house just to be free of us. That's extortion. That's family, Patricia said firmly. And you can either be part of this family or be alone. Completely, utterly alone. No one will side with you. Your coworkers will hear about your mental issues. Your neighbors will be told about your dangerous activities. Even Tom will testify about your instability if needed. Tom, My boyfriend who'd been planted to spy on me. The betrayal cut deep. I want you all out. Now. They left slowly, deliberately, each making sure to brush against me, to touch my things, to mark their territory. Madison picked up a photo of Grandma Dorothy and myself, looked at it, then set it face down. 4 weeks, Rebecca, she said at the door. The wedding is in 4 weeks. The invitations go out tomorrow. Back down now, or face the consequences. After they left, I collapsed on my kitchen floor, shaking. They weren't just toxic, they were dangerous. And they'd been planning this for who knows how long. Every interaction, every relationship, every moment of the last 3 years had been orchestrated to get my house. But they'd made one mistake. They'd revealed their entire plan while I was recording. And now I knew exactly what I was up against. The next morning, I woke to my phone exploding with notifications. Madison had posted on every social media platform about her upcoming beach wedding at the family estate in Malibu. The wedding website was live, complete with my address, photos of my house, and registry links to expensive gifts. The audacity was breathtaking. Then the phone calls started. Relatives I hadn't spoken to in years were calling to congratulate me on hosting Madison's wedding. Each conversation followed the same pattern. They'd gush about how generous I was being, how family should support family, and casually mention their excitement about seeing the famous beach house Grandma Dorothy had left to the family. Rebecca, darling, Cousin Ruth from Oregon called. I've already booked my flights. So wonderful you're doing this for Madison. About time that house was used for family gatherings instead of hoarding it selfishly. I tried explaining that there was no wedding, that I hadn't agreed to anything, but Madison had done her groundwork well. She'd told everyone I was being modest, that I didn't want credit for my generosity. The more I protested, the more I looked like I was backing out of a promise. Then things got worse. My boss, Kenneth, called me into his office that morning. Rebecca, I got the strangest call from someone claiming to be you yesterday, requesting time off for a family emergency. Then I get another call this morning from your mother, very concerned about your mental state. She says you're having some kind of breakdown. My career, my reputation, everything I'd worked for was under attack. Kenneth, my family is trying to manipulate me into hosting a wedding I didn't agree to. That wasn't me who called you. He looked skeptical. Your mother seemed very concerned. She mentioned you've been acting paranoid, recording family members, making accusations. She suggested maybe you need a leave of absence to get help. Kenneth, you've known me for 5 years. Have I ever seemed unstable to you? Before he could answer, Brittany knocked and entered. The spy. Madison's friend who'd gotten a temp job here just to watch me. Sorry to interrupt, but Rebecca has a visitor. Her boyfriend Tom was here? At my workplace? I excused myself and found him in the lobby, looking concerned and gentle. The act made me sick. Becca, baby, your family called me. They're worried about you. This paranoia about the wedding, it's not like you. I stared at him, this man I'd shared my bed with, my fears with, my dreams with. How much did they pay you, Tom? Or are you doing this just because Derek is your cousin? His mask slipped for just a second. I don't know what you're talking about. I heard everything yesterday. I know you've been feeding them information about me. Was any of it real? Any of our relationship? Tom was here? At my workplace? I excused myself and found him in the lobby, looking concerned and gentle. The act made me sick. Managed the house. They wanted me gone so they could take over completely. His mask slipped for just a second. I don't know what you're talking about. He grabbed my hands, and I fought not to pull away in disgust. Rebecca, you're scaring me. These delusions, these accusations. Your family is right to be concerned. Maybe you should take some time off. Get help. I could manage the house while you're gone. Make sure everything is safe. Security escorted him out at my request, but the damage was done. By lunch, everyone at work was whispering about my breakdown and my family troubles. Brittany was making sure the gossip spread, adding details about my erratic behavior and paranoid episodes. I left work early, only to find a delivery truck at my house. $10,000 worth of flowers and decorations were being unloaded. The delivery guy handed me an invoice with my name on it. "I didn't order this," I said. "Lady, I just deliver." The order was placed by Madison Summers, authorized by Rebecca Summers, paid on delivery. "If you don't pay, I have to call the cops for theft of service." I had no choice but to pay, knowing I'd have to fight to get it back later. As soon as the truck left, I started making calls. First, a locksmith to change every lock immediately. Second, a security company to install cameras. Third, my grandmother's lawyer, Mr. Peterson. "Rebecca, this is serious," he said after I explained everything. "They're attempting fraud, identity theft, and extortion. You need to document everything and consider a restraining order." While the locksmith worked, I discovered something horrifying. Madison had been slowly moving things into my house. The guest room closet had boxes of her clothes. The garage had Derek's golf clubs. They'd been establishing residency bit by bit. Tom's nice guy facade cracked. "You're making a huge mistake, Rebecca. You have no idea what Derek is capable of when he doesn't get what he wants. This wedding is happening whether you agree or not." Construction? I checked my security camera app on my phone, the new system already paying off. There was Madison, bold as brass, showing a contractor around my property, pointing at walls, gesturing at the layout. The contractor was taking notes, nodding along. Then my phone rang. It was my bank. "Miss Summers, we're calling about unusual activity on your account. Someone attempted to add themselves as an authorized user, and there have been multiple failed attempts to access your online banking from unrecognized devices. Derek. He was trying to access my money directly now." That evening, I called the only family member who might help me. Cousin Margaret. She was older, lived in Seattle, and had always been the black sheep for marrying outside our race. The family had basically exiled her, which now seemed like a blessing. "Rebecca, honey, I'm not surprised," she said when I told her everything. "Your mother and Linda have always been vipers. They did something similar to Uncle George before he died, convinced him to sign over his life insurance. When he tried to change it back, suddenly he had to fall down the stairs. Are you saying they killed him?" "I'm saying Uncle George was healthy as a horse until he refused to give them money. Then he had an unfortunate accident. Be careful, Rebecca. They're capable of anything." Her words chilled me, but they also strengthened my resolve. This wasn't just about a house or a wedding anymore. This was about survival. That night, I didn't sleep. Every noise made me jump. Were they trying to break in? Were they watching? I clutched my phone, ready to call 911 at any moment. The next morning brought fresh hell. A process server knocked on my door. Derek was suing me for breach of oral contract, claiming I'd verbally agreed to host the wedding and was now reneging, causing financial damage to him and emotional distress to Madison. The papers were professionally done. He'd clearly planned this lawsuit well in advance, probably before they'd even started their manipulation. This was always going to end in court if I didn't comply. But the worst was yet to come. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was a photo of me from college, at a party, clearly intoxicated and in a compromising position with someone who wasn't conscious. I didn't even remember this photo existing. The message read, "Your choice. Wedding happens smoothly, or this goes viral. Your work with vulnerable populations would be over." Who would trust a social worker with this in her past? "You have 24 hours to publicly announce you're hosting Madison's wedding." Derek had just crossed the line into blackmail. But he'd also made a crucial error. He'd put it in writing. I screenshot everything and called Mr. Peterson again. "We're going to the police," he said. "This is criminal now." "But Rebecca, You need protection. Can you stay somewhere safe? Safe? Where was safe when your entire family was against you? When your boyfriend was a plant? When your therapist had betrayed you? When spies were at your work? I was alone, completely, utterly alone, just like they'd threatened. But sometimes, being alone means being free to fight back without worrying about collateral damage. And I was ready to fight. The next morning shattered what was left of my trust in humanity. My best friend since college, Sarah, called me crying. "Rebecca, I'm so sorry. I didn't know what they were really planning. They said they just wanted to surprise you with helping plan the wedding." "Sarah, what did you do?" Through her sobs, the truth came out. Madison had contacted her months ago, claiming she wanted to reconcile with me and needed Sarah's help to plan a surprise gesture. Sarah had been feeding Madison information about my work schedule, my relationships, my mental state after therapy sessions, even my passwords that she'd seen me type. They paid me $5,000, Rebecca. I'm broke, my student loans are crushing me, and they said it was just to help plan a nice surprise. I didn't know about the house theft. I swear, another betrayal. Another person I'd trusted who sold me out for money. But Sarah's confession revealed something important. Madison had been planning this for months, maybe longer. Every aspect of my life had been infiltrated. I hung up on Sarah's apologies and started investigating on my own. First, I hired a private investigator, Catherine Walsh, recommended by Mr. Peterson. Catherine was expensive but thorough. Within hours, she had preliminary information that made my blood run cold. Tom wasn't just Derek's cousin, he was Derek's business partner in 3 failed ventures. Their current company, a real estate investment firm, was hemorrhaging money. They needed my house as collateral for a massive loan to save their business. But that wasn't the worst part. Catherine discovered Derek had done this before. His previous fiancé, Rachel Morrison, had owned a condo in San Francisco. Derek had convinced her to add him to the deed, then forced her out through psychological torture and legal manipulation. Rachel had eventually signed over the property just to escape him. They paid me $5,000, Rebecca. I'm broke. My student loans are crushing me, and they said it was just to help plan a nice surprise. I didn't know about the house theft. I swear. I needed to talk to Rachel. Catherine provided her number, warning me that Rachel might not want to relive the trauma. But when I called and explained my situation, Rachel immediately agreed to meet. How did he get your property? Slowly. First, he moved in. Then he started getting mail there, establishing residency. His family would visit constantly, treating it like their home. When I protested, he'd twist everything, make me seem unstable. He had people at my work spreading rumors, friends turning against me. He even got my therapist on his side. My therapist, Dr. Morrison. Wait, Morrison? Dr. Patricia Morrison? Rachel's eyes widened. You know her? She's Derek's aunt. She's the one who diagnosed me with paranoid personality disorder, said I was a danger to myself. That diagnosis followed me everywhere, destroyed my career in finance. Derek's aunt. The therapist Madison was now seeing, who'd been treating me for 2 years, who knew all my secrets, my vulnerabilities, my deepest fears. She'd been feeding them information the entire time. Rachel, how did you finally get away? I didn't. I signed over the condo and fled to Oregon. Started over with nothing. Derek sold my home for $800,000 and used it to fund his business. Last I heard, he'd burned through that money too. Would you be willing to testify about this? Help me stop him? Rachel grabbed my hand. Rebecca, you don't understand. Derek has connections everywhere. Judges, police, city officials. His family has been in California for generations. They know everyone. The system won't help you. Then what do I do? Run. Sign over the house and run. It's just property. Your sanity, your life, those are worth more. But as I left that meeting, I knew I couldn't run. This house wasn't just property. It was Grandma Dorothy's legacy, the only thing I had left of someone who truly loved me. And I was done being pushed around. Catherine called with more information. The plot was even deeper. My parents had taken out massive loans using their house as collateral, believing they'd have access to my beach house soon to cover the debts. They were 3 months behind on payments. If this wedding scam didn't work, they'd lose everything. Derek's business wasn't just failing, he was being investigated for fraud by the SEC. He needed the respectability of a big society wedding to convince investors he was stable. The Malibu beach house wedding was literally his last chance to avoid prison. Madison knew all of this. She wasn't a victim of Derek's manipulation. She was a co-conspirator. Catherine found emails between them dating back 2 years, planning every detail. They'd researched California property law, squatters' rights, mental health holds, everything they'd need to steal my house. The coup de grace came when Catherine uncovered the truth about my biological father. The man I'd called Dad my whole life, Harold, wasn't my biological parent. My real father was Patricia's first husband, Richard, who died when I was 2. But here's the kicker. Richard had been wealthy, very wealthy. He'd left a trust fund for me that was supposed to activate when I turned 35, just 1 year away. My mother had hidden this from me my entire life. The trust was worth $2 million. But if I was declared mentally incompetent or died before 35, the money would go to my next of kin, my mother. That's why the urgency. That's why they needed me either committed or gone within the next year. It wasn't just about the beach house. It was about the fortune I didn't even know existed. I sat in my car after Catherine gave me this information, shaking with rage. My entire life had been a lie. Every moment of neglect, every cruel comment, every manipulation had been about money I didn't even know I had. But they'd made one crucial mistake. They'd pushed me too far, and now I had ammunition. That evening, I got another shock. Mrs. Chen knocked on my door with a concerned expression. "Rebecca, I thought you should know. There was a man here earlier, picking the lock on your back door." I called the police, but he ran when he heard sirens. I checked my new security cameras. There was Derek, clear as day, trying to break into my house with what looked like lock-picking tools. But that wasn't all. The camera also caught him planting something in my garden shed before attempting the break-in. I called the police myself this time, reporting the attempted break-in and requesting they search the shed. They found what Derek had planted, drug paraphernalia, and a significant amount of cash in marked bills. He'd been trying to frame me. The police took my statement and the security footage. For the first time, I had concrete evidence of their criminal actions. But I knew this was just the beginning. They'd escalate. Desperate people do desperate things. That night, I didn't go home. I checked into a hotel under a fake name, taking my important documents and valuables with me. It was a good thing I did. At 3 a.m., my security system sent an alert. Multiple figures were in my house. I watched in horror on my phone as my family ransacked my home, clearly looking for something. They went through every drawer, every closet, every box. Then I realized what they were looking for. Grandma Dorothy's will. The original. The one that would prove the house was mine and mine alone. The one I'd hidden in a safety deposit box that very afternoon. I called 911, reporting a break-in in progress. The police arrived to find my parents, Madison, Derek, and Aunt Linda in my house. They all claimed to have keys, to be family just checking on me since I'd been acting strange. But the security footage showed them breaking in through a window Derek had unlocked during his earlier attempt. They were all arrested for breaking and entering, though I knew they'd be out on bail by morning. The war was officially on. And now I knew exactly who my enemies were. Everyone I'd ever trusted. The police took my statement and the security footage. For the first time, I had concrete evidence of their criminal actions. But I knew this was just the beginning. they'd escalate. Desperate people do desperate things. I checked my new security cameras. There was Derek, clear as day, trying to break into my house with what looked like lock-picking tools. But that wasn't all. The camera also caught him planting something in my garden shed before attempting the break-in. The next morning, I assembled my team. Mr. Peterson, the estate lawyer. Catherine Walsh, the private investigator. And a new addition. Marcus Stone, a criminal attorney who specialized in family fraud cases. We met at Mr. Peterson's office, away from any possible surveillance. We need to go on the offensive, I decided. They've had months to plan. Now it's my turn. First, we filed restraining orders against everyone involved. The breaking and entering charges helped push these through quickly. Derek, Madison, my parents, Aunt Linda, and even the cousins were legally barred from coming within 500 feet of me or my property. Second, we sent cease and desist letters to all vendors Madison had contacted using my name, warning them that any contracts were fraudulent and would not be honored. We also contacted the credit bureaus to freeze my credit and flag my identity as stolen. Third, and this was the satisfying part, I called Cousin Margaret. She had connections in Seattle media and was happy to help expose the family's corruption. Within hours, an investigative journalist named David Chen was interested in the story. But I needed more evidence, particularly about Derek's past. Catherine suggested something risky, reaching out to Derek's first fiancé, Rachel, again, but this time to set a trap. Rachel agreed to help. She called Derek, pretending she'd heard about his upcoming wedding and wanted to warn him that someone was investigating his past. As expected, Derek took the bait. He met with Rachel, trying to find out what she knew, and inadvertently confessed to his previous frauds on the wire she was wearing. I've evolved since then, Derek told Rachel. Rebecca's family is helping this time. It's much cleaner. The old lady's money will set us up for life. The old lady's money. He knew about my father's trust fund. They all did. Meanwhile, we dealt with the workplace situation. My boss Kenneth was shocked when shown the evidence of Brittany's spying and the family's harassment campaign. Brittany was immediately terminated, and Kenneth provided a statement about the impersonation calls from my mother. Dr. Patricia Morrison, Derek's aunt and my former therapist, was reported to the medical board for violation of patient confidentiality and ethical boundaries. The investigation would take months, but her license was suspended pending review. We also discovered something incredible. Grandma Dorothy had been smarter than anyone realized. Mr. Peterson found additional documents in her safety deposit box, including video recordings she'd made before her death. In the videos, Dorothy explicitly stated why she left the house solely to me. She detailed Patricia and Harold's attempts to have her declared incompetent, Madison's theft of her jewelry, and Linda's forging of checks from her account. She'd known exactly who they were and had protected me from beyond the grave. I know they'll come for Rebecca once I'm gone, Dorothy said in one video. But I trust my granddaughter to be stronger than they expect. Rebecca, if you're watching this, don't let them win. They're vultures, all of them. You're the only real family I had. I cried watching those videos. Even dead, Grandma Dorothy was still protecting me. With our evidence mounted, we prepared for the nuclear option, a lawsuit. Not just defensive, but offensive. We were suing for intentional infliction of emotional distress, fraud, conspiracy, identity theft, and violation of civil rights. We were also pursuing criminal charges for everything from blackmail to breaking and entering. But they weren't done yet. Madison posted on social media that I'd had a mental breakdown and violently attacked her, causing her to miscarry the baby she'd never been pregnant with. The post went viral in our extended family network. Messages poured in calling me a monster, a baby killer, a psychopath. It was brilliant in its cruelty. Even though it was completely false, the emotional impact on family members was immediate. Cousins who'd been neutral turned against me. Elderly aunts were calling me crying, begging me to get help. Then came the next escalation. My car tires were slashed while I was at the grocery store. Dead flowers were left on my doorstep with a note. This could have been easy. My work received dozens of calls claiming I was abusing vulnerable clients. They were trying to destroy every aspect of my life, force me to capitulate just to make it stop. But each attack only strengthened my resolve. And Catherine was documenting everything, building a case that would destroy them. The restraining orders were being violated, but the police said without proof of who was doing it, they couldn't arrest anyone. My family had alibis for everything, friends vouching for their whereabouts. But we had an ace up our sleeve. Cousin Margaret had been in contact with other family members Derek and Madison had scammed over the years. Turns out, my sister had a history of this behavior going back to high school. She'd stolen from friends, manipulated teachers, even blackmailed a boyfriend. There was a pattern, and we had witnesses. The wedding date was now 2 weeks away. Madison was still posting about it, vendors were still calling, and relatives were still planning to attend. The delusion was complete. They truly believed they could force this to happen through sheer will. It was time for the final phase of my counterattack, and it would happen at the one place they'd never expect. The family reunion they'd planned at my house without my permission. 2 weeks before the supposed wedding date, I came home to find my house surrounded by cars. Despite the restraining orders, despite the criminal charges pending, my entire extended family had gathered at my house for what Madison had called an intervention and wedding planning session. The security system had been somehow disabled, and they'd all gotten inside. Later I'd learned that Tom still had a key I didn't know about, one he'd made from an impression when I'd left my keys on his nightstand months ago. I called 911 immediately, but I also knew this was an opportunity. They were all here, all complicit, all trespassing. I started recording on my phone and walked in. The scene was surreal. About 40 relatives were in my living room, with Madison holding court like she owned the place. Decorations were already being hung. Someone had moved my furniture. My personal photos had been taken down and replaced with pictures of Madison and Derek. "There she is," Madison announced as I entered. "Everyone, Rebecca is having some mental health challenges, but we're here to support her through this wedding." The room erupted in voices, all talking at once, all trying to convince me, guilt me, manipulate me. But I stayed calm, knowing I was recording everything. The wedding date was now 2 weeks away. Madison was still posting about it, vendors were still calling, and relatives were still planning to attend. The delusion was complete. They truly believed they could force this to happen through sheer will. "Rebecca, stop being dramatic," Cousin Ruth said. "We're family. We're here to help you." Help me? By breaking into my house? By enabling Madison's fraud? That's when Derek stood up, looking smug. "Rebecca, let's be honest here. You're outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and out of options. Sign the house over to the family trust, and this all goes away. Fight us, and things get much worse." "Worse how, Derek? Or should I call you by your real name, Dennis Coleman?" The room went silent. Derek's face went white. Catherine had done her work well. Dennis Coleman, convicted fraudster from Nevada, who'd changed his name and moved to California to start fresh. Who'd left a trail of victims across 3 states. "That's right," I continued. "I know everything. The fraud convictions, the women you've scammed, the properties you've stolen. Rachel Morrison sends her regards, by the way." Madison jumped up. "You're lying. Derek isn't, he wouldn't. Your fiancé is a professional con man, Madison, and you know it. You've known it all along. I have the emails between you two, planning this whole scheme for 2 years." I pulled out my tablet, connected it to my TV, and started playing the evidence Catherine had compiled. Emails, documents, recordings. The room watched in stunned silence as the truth unfolded, but the best was yet to come. Oh, and Mom, Dad, did you tell everyone about the trust fund? The $2 million from my biological father that you've been hiding from me? Patricia gasped. Harold's face turned purple. What trust fund? Aunt Linda asked, suddenly very interested. The one that activates when I turn 35 next year. Unless, of course, I'm declared mentally incompetent or dead. Then it goes to dear old Mom. The family erupted. People were shouting, demanding explanations. Patricia was trying to deny it, but I had the documents to prove it. This whole thing, I announced, isn't about a wedding. It's about stealing my inheritance. The house, the trust fund, everything Grandma Dorothy and my real father left me. Then I played my ace. Grandma Dorothy's videos. The room fell silent as Dorothy, from beyond the grave, exposed every single one of them. Their thefts, their lies, their manipulations. She'd known everything and documented it all. I'm leaving everything to Rebecca, Dorothy's voice said from the TV, because she's the only one who never asked me for anything. The rest of you are vultures, and you know it. When the video ended, the doorbell rang. It wasn't the police I'd called earlier. It was David Chen, the investigative journalist, with a camera crew. Margaret had timed it perfectly. I'm here about the wedding fraud story, David announced, camera rolling. Which one of you is Dennis Coleman, aka Derek? Derek ran, literally sprinted for the back door. But the police were already there, finally responding to my 911 call. He ran straight into their arms. Madison started screaming, lunging at me. You ruined everything. This was supposed to be my day. My wedding. She actually got her hands on me, scratching at my face, before the police pulled her off. The assault was captured on multiple cameras, including the news crews. She attacked me first. Madison shrieked as they cuffed her. She's the crazy one. Tell them, Mom. But Patricia was backing away, finally realizing the game was over. Harold was trying to leave quietly, but the police stopped him too. The breaking and entering charges, the restraining order violations, and now assault meant they were all going to jail. The family scattered like roaches when the light turns on. Relatives who'd been so supportive of Madison moments before were now claiming they had no idea about the fraud, that they were victims too. David Chen interviewed several of them, getting their shocked reactions on camera. The story would run that night. Malibu beach house wedding scam. Family conspiracy exposed. As the police led Madison, Derek, and my parents away, Madison turned to me one last time. I'm pregnant for real this time, Rebecca. You're destroying your nephew's life. The police officer holding her side. Ma'am, you just claimed the same thing in a false social media post 2 days ago. Nobody believes you. It was true. Her lies had finally caught up with her. The boy who cried wolf, or in this case, the sister who cried pregnancy. The next morning, the scandal exploded across local news. Family wedding scam exposed. Malibu woman fights back against elaborate fraud. The story had everything: family drama, fraud, a beautiful beach house, and a strong woman standing up to her abusers. Derek, or Dennis, was denied bail due to flight risk and his previous convictions. Madison was released on bail, paid for by Aunt Linda, but immediately violated it by trying to contact me through a fake social media account. She was rearrested within 12 hours. My parents made bail but were facing serious charges. The breaking and entering, combined with the evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud, meant they were looking at potential prison time. Their house was in foreclosure, their reputations destroyed, their jobs lost, but they weren't done. Through their lawyer, they tried one last manipulation. They offered a deal. They'd drop any claim to my house and the trust fund if I didn't testify against them. They'd plead to lesser charges, get probation, and we'd all move on. Marcus, my attorney, laughed when he heard the offer. They're facing 10 to 15 years and they think they have leverage? Tell them no deal. The preliminary hearings were a parade of revelations. Catherine had found 12 more victims of Derek's scams across the country. The FBI got involved, turning this into a federal case. Madison's involvement made her an accomplice to interstate fraud. Dr. Patricia Morrison, Derek's aunt, lost her license permanently when the investigation revealed she'd been sharing confidential patient information for years, not just mine. 7 former patients came forward with similar stories of betrayal. Tom disappeared. He'd fled to Mexico the night of the arrests, probably warned by Derek's criminal connections. Good riddance. The trial date was set for 3 months out, but the family drama continued. Relatives chose sides, with most distancing themselves from my parents and Madison. The family Facebook group imploded with accusations and recriminations. Cousin Margaret flew down from Seattle to support me. She'd been through this before, she said, and knew how isolating it felt to stand up to toxic family. We spent hours talking about Grandma Dorothy, sharing stories the others had never wanted to hear. Then came the surprise. A week before the trial, Madison's lawyer contacted mine. She wanted to meet, just the two of us, in a controlled environment. Against Marcus's advice, I agreed. I needed closure. We met in a conference room at the courthouse. Lawyers present but silent. Madison looked terrible. Jail didn't suit her. Her perfect hair was gone, her designer clothes replaced with a plain suit, her confidence shattered. Tom disappeared. He'd fled to Mexico the night of the arrests, probably warned by Derek's criminal connections. Good riddance. My shadow? Madison, you were the golden child. Everything was about you. No, everything was about making me look like the golden child so no one would notice they loved you more. Even when they praised me, it was hollow. Why can't you be more genuine like Rebecca? Rebecca doesn't need all these material things. Rebecca visits Grandma without being asked. Tom disappeared. He'd fled to Mexico the night of the arrests, probably warned by Derek's criminal connections. Good riddance. I hate you, she started. I've always hated you. From the moment you were born, you took attention away from me. You were the smart one, the kind one, the one Grandma loved. Do you know what it's like living in your shadow? What do you mean Derek preferred me? What do you mean Derek preferred me? The revelation hit me hard. Tom had been Plan B. The manipulation ran even deeper than I'd known. I hate you, she started. I've always hated you. From the moment you were born, you took attention away from me. You were the smart one, the kind one, the one Grandma loved. Do you know what it's like living in your shadow? Then came the surprise. A week before the trial, Madison's lawyer contacted mine. She wanted to meet, just the two of us, in a controlled environment. Against Marcus's advice, I agreed. I needed closure. The house was supposed to be mine, she continued. I'm the oldest. I was getting married. It was fair. Then you stole it. Just like you stole everything else. Grandma's love, the trust fund I didn't even know about, even Derek preferred you at first. It was the closest to honesty Madison had ever been with me. Still twisted, still self-serving, but honest in her own way. The revelation hit me hard. Tom had been Plan B. The manipulation ran even deeper than I'd known. I wanted to feel sympathy, but I couldn't. Too much damage had been done. Goodbye, Madison. They're on their own. Mom knew about the trust fund for 30 years and never told me. Dad isn't even your real father but raised you anyway while treating me like I had to earn his love. They used both of us, Rebecca. Just in different ways. That night, with a warrant and police supervision, we searched my parents' house. The file Madison mentioned contained surveillance footage from inside my house, dating back years. They'd installed hidden cameras during visits, watching me, documenting my life, looking for leverage. Goodbye, Madison. I wanted to feel sympathy, but I couldn't. Too much damage had been done. The trial never happened. Everyone took deals. Derek got 15 years federal time for the interstate fraud. Madison got 5 years state, eligible for parole in 3. My parents each got 7 years, suspended to 2 with probation and restitution. The extended family fractured completely. Those who'd participated in the intervention faced civil lawsuits from me for trespassing and emotional distress. Most settled quickly, wanting it over. But the cameras had caught something else. Them discussing their plans, their crimes, their hatred for me in explicit detail. They'd created evidence against themselves. 3 months after the arrests, I stood on my deck watching the sunset over the Pacific. The house was finally peaceful, truly mine for the first time. The security system was still there, but I'd removed the internal cameras my parents had hidden. I wanted my privacy back. The trial never happened. Everyone took deals. Derek got 15 years federal time for the interstate fraud. Madison got 5 years state, eligible for parole in 3. My parents each got 7 years, suspended to 2 with probation and restitution. You know, Margaret said, joining me with 2 glasses of wine, Dorothy would be proud. You fought them all in one. It doesn't feel like winning, I admitted. I lost my entire family. The extended family fractured completely. Those who'd participated in the intervention faced civil lawsuits from me for trespassing and emotional distress. Most settled quickly, wanting it over. Cousin Margaret was visiting for the week. She'd become my only real family, the sister I'd never had. We were planning a small gathering for my 35th birthday, when the trust fund would finally be mine. You know, Margaret said, joining me with 2 glasses of wine, Dorothy would be proud. You fought them all in one. Madison gave birth in prison and signed away her parental rights immediately. The baby was adopted by a loving couple in Oregon. She sent me one letter, not apologizing but acknowledging that the baby deserved better than our poisonous family legacy. It was the most mature thing she'd ever done. Cousin Margaret was visiting for the week. She'd become my only real family, the sister I'd never had. We were planning a small gathering for my 35th birthday, when the trust fund would finally be mine. No, honey, you escaped a group of abusers who happened to share your DNA. Family isn't blood. It's the people who love you without conditions, who support you without manipulation, who celebrate your success without jealousy. She was right. I'd found my real family in unexpected places. My boss Kenneth, who'd stood by me through the scandal, Catherine the investigator, who'd become a friend, even Rachel Morrison, Derek's previous victim, who now called regularly to check on me. Derek was less fortunate. His previous victims testified at his sentencing, and federal prison wasn't kind to con men who'd targeted women. He'd serve at least 12 years before any possibility of parole. The beach house became what Grandma Dorothy always wanted it to be, a haven. I hosted gatherings for the shelter, fundraisers for victims' rights organizations, and support groups for those escaping toxic families. The place that was almost stolen became a sanctuary for others who'd faced similar abuse. I also found love again, real love this time. Her name was Jessica, a prosecutor I'd met during the trial. She understood trust issues, having seen the worst of humanity in her work. We took it slow, honest from the beginning, building something real on a foundation of truth rather than manipulation. Tom was arrested trying to re-enter the country a year later. He faced charges for his part in the conspiracy, though lesser ones. 2 years in prison and deportation to Mexico, where he'd apparently made connections during his flee. My dearest Rebecca, it read, if you're reading this, then they've shown their true colors. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you more, but I knew you had the strength to protect yourself. The house isn't just walls and a view. It's a symbol of your independence, your worth, your right to exist without apologizing. Fight for it, not because of its monetary value, but because you deserve to have something that's truly yours. And when you win, because I know you will, remember, The best revenge against toxic people is living a happy life without them. All my love, Dorothy. I framed that letter and hung it where the photo of my fake family used to be. It reminded me daily that I was loved, truly loved, by someone who saw my worth without conditions. The wedding that Madison had planned for June 15th never happened, obviously. But on that date, exactly 1 year later, Jessica and I had a small ceremony on the beach. Just 20 people, all chosen family, all there by genuine invitation. Margaret officiated, having gotten ordained online just for the occasion. As I stood there, exchanging vows with someone who loved me without manipulation, surrounded by people who supported me without agenda, I realized something profound. My family hadn't failed me by trying to steal my house. They'd freed me by showing me who they really were. The Malibu house stood behind us, solid and unchanged, no longer a battleground but a home. The waves crashed peacefully, the sun set beautifully, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly, completely safe. But I never forgot the lesson. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And when family becomes the enemy, sometimes the only way to win is to stop playing their game entirely. Now I help others do the same. My story went viral after David Chen's reporting, and I received hundreds of messages from people facing similar situations. Family financial abuse is more common than anyone realizes, hidden behind closed doors and family loyalty. So I speak at conferences, write articles, consult with lawyers handling similar cases. I turned my pain into purpose, my trauma into teaching, because somewhere out there, another Rebecca is standing outside a door, listening to her family plot against her, wondering if she's crazy or if this is really happening. But I never forgot the lesson. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And when family becomes the enemy, sometimes the only way to win is to stop playing their game entirely.